These days, you don't have to click very far on the internet to find porn, and experts are worried that this pornography could be rewiring many people's brains. The concern for any parent or even grandparent is about what could be happening to kids who get hooked on porn. Associate Professor Amanda Gordon is the Armchair psychologist, and she joins us with some really great insights and possible solutions. It's great to see you again, Amanda. All right, so let's start with the first point that we just made in the intro. How can pornography actually rewire someone's brain?
Well, we're learning more and more about the brain's plasticity, and we know that when we do things or think things or focus on things, we're actually changing the wiring of our brain, which is good because if we, for instance, exercise, we get our brain used to exercising and it responds better to the exercise. If we do scientific problems, as we grapple with the scientific problems, our brain becomes better at dealing with those problems. It's not just the practice effect, it's also the plasticity of the brain. The brain actually gets better.
So how does porn make it worse or change the brain for the
we
the
have
worse?
a biological understanding or response to erotica, to sexual stimuli. Right. And with pornography, it's changing the sorts of things that stimulate us. And what tends to happen is the brain then starts to depend on those sorts of stimuli.
So for
the
example,
concern is that that pornography gets normalised, your brain starts to think this is how people have sex normally, and then you can't get aroused.
Yeah. And even if you know that it's not normal, so just knowing, it's not that we necessarily believe that this is how sex should be, but it changes our ability to
does it almost numb our desires or numb our way that we get around?
Become more extreme.
It has to be more extreme in order to get.
There's a lot of impotent young men going to hospitals now because they can't get it up because the normal sex doesn't do it for them.
Wow.
It's been a real bugbear topic for me for a long time because I've seen what people are exposed to at a really young age. And a lot of people go, oh, it's harmless. I used to read Playboy, but obviously what they're watching now is very different. It's violent and very different. Is that right?
Yeah, look, all of those things have been available before, but it's so accessible now. It's so easy to get to anything, and it can pop up. And, you know, just as our brains can be rewired, the computer is also, the algorithms within the computer are such that if you're searching for something one day, the next day it will just pop up for you. You don't have to search for it again. So it actually facilitates that sort of overuse of something like pornography.
But with kids especially, their brains are really not fully formed and they don't have any maturity. How dangerous do you believe it is for young teenagers, very early teens, women, girls as well as boys? How dangerous?
It is extremely dangerous because it takes away just normal development of sexual desire within a relationship. I would like to believe, you know, I'm a bit of a romantic, I suspect, that the best acknowledgement and use of sex is within a relationship. That's what it's really about. And if pornography takes it out of relationship and separates it from relationship, then how do we bring it back? How do we make the sex within a relationship grow the relationship, and how do we allow the relationship to grow the sex?
And it's not even when kids are teenagers, but even before they're teenagers, they're being exposed, aren't they?
Well,
do we know?
That's even worse, because what we're doing is we're sexualising kids' brains before their brains are ready to be sexualised. Before the hormones are racing around, there is other stuff happening in the brain, so it's changing the development right from the beginning.
Do we know how many kids have been exposed? Is it the norm now for kids to be exposed to porn
every
before
child by Year 6, Henry by Year 6 will have seen it. You should see what's in the chat rooms. And I guess for mothers out there and grandparents out there, we know they're watching it, we know we can't avoid it. So what do we do?
It goes back to the early discussions around the internet and what's legitimate and what's not. The most important thing is to talk about it. You shouldn't be doing anything on social media or on the internet about which you're embarrassed or ashamed. You have to teach your children the same thing, that if you are going to be using the internet, we're going to talk about what it is you are doing and seeing. And so
what do you, like...
How do you start that conversation?
This is a young man.
And I think
he's 14?
14. Sorry, Max, he's on school holidays.
So any 14-year-old, how does a mother discuss this and...
Because it's healthy in a way as well. They're going to want to see it.
You talk about the fact that lots of things are going to come up on the internet, and some are going to surprise them, and some are going to embarrass them, and some are going to be exciting and interesting, and they're curious about them. But it's really important they talk about it. And if it's not with you, then it's with their dad. That they start to have the conversations that we had with our parents, because we had to, because it was the way we learned about sex, was we had to ask someone, we had to ask an adult. Now it's there, now we have to ensure that they're putting it in a context of their lives, and you are creating that context. You can't be embarrassed as a parent about talking about anything with your child. You have to teach them that this is worth talking about, and we take the mystique away. We actually say to them, this is actually bad for you, because what's happening here is A, not normal, and B, it's not the way sex is really in reality, in real life, and it's going to spoil for you what can be a beautiful and should be a significant part of a relationship together with someone with whom they have a relationship.
Can pornography be healthy in a relationship as well?
Within a relationship, there are couples who from time to time like to spice up the relationship by using pornography together. The risk is if it becomes a habit, because it will then spoil what could be normal sex for them and changes normal to dull, and means the only time they are eroticized is by the extreme, and that's when it's bad. I actually think there is something about the privacy of the sexual world that belongs just between two people that is very important, and we lose that with the internet. Nothing is private. And we have to teach our kids again the importance of privacy. It's all about putting boundaries around and saying what's okay on the internet or in the world.
My wife keeps Googling Tim Robards. Does that count?
Some really interesting insights into pornography. It's certainly it's a challenging path that we all have to navigate,
I'm
right?
sorry to keep the topic going, but for our girls as well, because they're all getting, you know, a lot of plastic surgery now is based around trying to make themselves look
very confusing for the girls about what is
normal,
but what is sexual, what is sexy, how to flirt has been taken away from girls as well. I mean, with the whole movement about proper behaviour is taken a lot of things underground.
Is it possible we're all just a bit prudish and this is another sexual revolution like the one we had 50 years ago, and that this is actually just normal for kids and they're actually fine and we're worrying about it?
No, I think we're right to be worried about it. I think we're right to think that this plasticity is not good.
Right. So just open the conversation with your teenager. Just open it. Doesn't matter how embarrassed you feel you might be or they might be. I can see a lot of boys going, Mum, no.
You have to
So
have it.
sometimes the dads have to also step up, and it's not just about mum.
Yeah, exactly. Amanda Gordon, thanks again for dropping by. Nice to see you. After the break, we'll get a check on the latest.